to another episode of the Fantasy Cheat Sheet. I hope everyone had a good Memorial Day weekend. I am Mike. Drop the Mike FF on Twitter. And like always, I got Zach here at the Big Pulowski on Twitter. How you doing today, Zach?
I'm doing good, thanks. Thanks for having me, Mike. Always glad to be here on Tuesday.
Oh yeah, another day, some more football talk. Let's just get into it. On the news side of let's get into the news for the week. There is not a lot, but there's a couple things that are fantasy football relevant that we should discuss real quick. Number one, Arizona Cardinals drafted Cavante Ingram. Now they go out and sign Darrell Williams, the former Kansas City Chief, the Super Bowl champion, I might add, at running back. So now they have James Conner, Ingram, and Darrell Williams in the running back spot. Do you think this has any impact on either current Cardinal running backs play percentage, or do you think this is just another bullet to the arsenal for the Arizona Cardinals? That
I think it's another bullet to their arsenal at this point. I had some hopes for Keontae Ingram and maybe being the RB2 filling in if James Conner got hurt, but I think we're going to see it where James Conner is the clear number one, and then they have this rotisserie and this arsenal of other guys that can fill in on different drives, different situations, but nothing too crazy in regards to fantasy there. Maybe a flyer with injury, but yeah, stashing in a dynasty can't hurt. But other than that, nothing sexy. What are your thoughts on it, Mike?
I think it's another bullet in the arsenal. I think it's just another veteran that you have to back up James Conner. Still think James Conner is the one, since you only have a rookie in Ingram, and they do have Benjamin, who I love, but I'm starting to think that Benjamin's time in Arizona is on its wayside. We'll see how about that. The other piece of information that came out this week in fantasy football relevancy is the Cleveland Browns sign David Njoku, tight end, to a 4-year extension. To me, this is a big deal. To me, this is a very big deal because they went out and signed Hooper last year. Now he's gone. They get Njoku. They re-sign him to an extension. They just drafted Harrison Bryant last year. Everyone's been waiting for Njoku to go to a different team. It hasn't happened. Everyone thought he was going to be something the last couple of years. That hasn't happened. But to me, this proves that the Cleveland Browns want to get him more involved. And with hopefully Deshaun Watson, hopefully for Cleveland's sake, his quarterback this season, that's why I think they did this. And they're hoping to use the tight end more. And with Stefanski and the system he runs, I would not doubt if they try to run Harrison Bryant and Njoku more and have Harrison Bryant as the blocking guy and have Njoku as the receiving tight end. What do you think, real quick?
Mike, I think you touched on all the points. Yeah, I think Njoku's the guy. It's hard to see it any other way at this point.
And I
You
know
know,
Jamie, being a Cleveland fan, loves Njoku efficiency.
there was some questions over times, like you were stating, about, people wanting him to be moved to a different team so he could be used. But this is the time. They paid him like they're going to use him. They have Deshaun. It's hard not to see the opportunity there, especially with some questions around who the other wide receiver weapons are. I look at Njoku outside of Amari Cooper. I like David Bell, but I still look at Njoku, and I can't forget about Peoples Jones, of course. But I would say David Bell, Peoples Jones are both going to be lower on the totem pole for David Bell, or sorry, lower than Njoku on the totem pole.
Yeah, for sure. Let's go into this real quick before we get into the main part of the show. Jamie says he was extremely efficient last year. If you look at all tight ends with 10 or more slot targets, he was 7th in yards per route and 7th in yards after catch per reception. Overall, he was 11th in yards per route and top 5 in yards after the catch. And now he's got Watson instead of Mayfield. That to me is the key, Jamie. He's got Watson who can get the ball down the field more, which is what you need with Njoku, and more accurate. Do you think Jamie's right?
Absolutely. It's hard to argue against it at this point, especially losing Jarvis, and losing Hooper. I think that was the worst part was it just seemed like they had a crowded tight end room. They were paying Hooper a good amount of money to be there, but now that Njoku's kind of the solo guy, I mean, I think like you were mentioning, Harrison Bryant will be more of a pass blocker, run blocker at this point. I have a hard time seeing Njoku be anything other than a heavily used weapon in their offense. So I like it. Yeah, I mean, Ninjoku's price is fairly low. Obviously, it's climbing now that he's getting this extension and with Hooper gone. However, I would say if he can be that guy with Jamie's points about those stats, you could easily get a top tier tight end for fairly cheap.
Exactly, and I agree with you on that. So, for tonight's episode, we're going to get into the meat and potatoes of it now. We've been talking about rookies, we've been talking about vets, we've been talking about rookie drafts and the NFL draft. Now, people have already, some people are still in their rookie draft, some have done, some are in a little bit, but everyone's about to get that fever for startup fever after their rookie drafts are over because we're all degenerates and we love football. So we decided tonight we would talk a little draft strategy. And to start the talk off, let's talk about early quarterback. And we can mention 1QB leagues and Superflex. I am not the type of person to do this personally in single QB. We will get to another situation, we have another topic about quarterbacks in a little bit. But what is your opinion on going quarterback early in 1QB leagues?
I've done it. I'm not going to lie. 3 years ago now I snagged Patrick Mahomes very early in a one QB league, but at that point in time I was looking at it out of all the players available, who was going to give me the most amount of years at an elite level out of all these different positions. I said Patrick Mahomes, and I got him. Haven't had to worry about QB since. Obviously, you need a backup for bye weeks or potential injury, but it's nice to just have that easy fix, not have to sweat that position at all because it can get murky if you're trying to play with some of these rookie going on second year guys or depending on improvements from guys like say Tannehill where we had higher expectations last year and then they didn't necessarily come to fruition. So I'm not against it in the one QB leagues, but it's also risky. If you can hit on those other picks in a startup, awesome. You're still ready to compete. You're set up for a long time. But it's a dangerous game. You have to have a lot of confidence in how you will do in the rest of the draft. Because if you can't get the right picks in the other rounds, you're asking for a bad time. It's going to be hard to get those running backs, those wide receivers. But I mean, you get the right guy in the right round, you're set up. Fortunately for me, I mean, that was the year Stefan had just moved to Buffalo. I got him cheap. I got Josh Allen as a backup because he hadn't blown up yet. And I sold him high, and then suddenly my team was everything I hoped for. But yeah, that was good call, luck, call it what you want, but you can't depend on it. So I'm not against it, but be cautious in considering that as an option. What are your thoughts on the QB early in the one QB format?
So on the 1QB format, I am the type to just play the board, but depending on like if there's a guy that like I have to have, I'll take him. Like I've done it, in redraft and dynasty, but in my home league that I actually won last year, and I might add I won it with McCaffrey hurt all year, so it's single QB. I waited a little bit because I got a guy. The league is 2 years old. So the guy, I'll say who it is in a second. The guy was on a different team when I drafted him than he is now. But because of that, I drafted a vet. So now in the single QB league, I thought, just like we have talked about before, I thought Drew Lock was going to be something. So right now I am sitting with not that great of a quarterback situation as a backup. Yes, Locke will be possibly okay for me in the sense that I think he is going to get the start. I think he will play this year. I know they keep saying Gino's doing good in camp, but I still think it's Locke's job this year. I will figure out the quarterback situation later. But the reason I brought it up is it's Matthew Stafford. So I got him later. People that were newer to the dynasty format were afraid of the veteran part of it, so they let him slide. I grabbed him, and this year he obviously did great with Cooper Kupp, and I won the chip. I know for a fact that if I didn't have him at quarterback this year, I would not have won it. There's no doubt about it. But other than that, do you have any other thoughts about quarterback early, or are we good to move on to the next one, Zach?
Just
Since
in Superflex 2 QB leagues, I mean, that's just kind of common practice. So
yep,
I don't think we really need to touch that one too much. It's
no, we
fairly
have a
common to just see top of the board be a whole bunch of QBs and then yeah. But let's
yep.
just dive into the next one then.
All right. So the next one is going to be your topic, and it is best player available. Go for it, Zach.
This is a strategy I usually always go with. I mean, obviously in that one league with Patrick Mahomes where I took him early, it's a little different. But usually if it's super flex, if it's almost any format, I'm just kind of evaluating who is going to give me the most amount of points, who's going to have the highest value if I'm trying to make trades. And there's rosters I've drafted. For example, this offseason I did a startup where it's a tight end premium and it's a super flex. I have Waller, I have Andrews, and I have Kittle. Do I need all three? Absolutely not. But guess what? These tight ends kept falling. Round round 3, round 5, round 6. I'm saying, why are these guys here? They shouldn't be available. Okay, I'll take them. And like I said, I don't need all three, but I know at some point someone's going to be trying to compete. They're going to realize that filler tight end that's not really producing much isn't their answer if they're trying to win the title, and they're going to overpay. So if I'm selling at that point, awesome. If I make a deal quicker where I can suddenly really push to compete, even better. But I also look at it where, hey, I don't need that. I also don't need to make a deal. It's a tight end premium, and these are productive guys. So best available is always the best approach, but that's if, in my opinion, of course. But with that in mind, when you play the best available, don't get scared about your roster construction right now. Just know that if you're playing that approach, you're probably going to have to be aggressive in the trade market. You can't really just draft this team and sit on it for a while. Obviously, certain guys you might hold due to expectation of their value going up later on, but you're asking to put in a lot of work post draft as well with that approach. What are your thoughts on best available?
I mean, that's how I like to play it. Except, there's always times where you go into a certain draft and you're doing a new format and you want to try something different. But for the most part, I'm going best player available unless I have some kind of strategy going into it. But here's the thing: even if you have a strategy going into the beginning of the draft, that strategy could be out the window in just a few rounds, and we'll get to that later on
Right.
in the show. But so best player available to me, if you're not thinking best player available, there's something wrong because especially in a startup that's a slow draft, which a lot of us do these days, the best player available concept, even if that isn't your strategy, if you have that in the back of your head, is amazing. And the reason I bring that up is because then if you're thinking, okay, I'm going to get up this guy because he's BPA, and you don't want to take him because you have another plan or whatever the case may be, that's when you flip that pick and get an extra pick a little bit down the road. That's when you trade that low end first or that high end second and get a low end second and say a sixth or a seventh or even a future pick with the way the classes are going.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, I get guys that I'm fairly low on that I'm not necessarily excited by, but I know what the market price is on them. I look at best available, might be this big name guy that I'm expecting a less productive year from. But at the same time, I know that that name is going to have a weight to it. I also know the previous years of production are going to be able to provide me to drive up that price. So, and someone else is going to want them. They're going to see that potential opportunity to repeat. So even if I'm low on him, hey, he's still available. Someone else is going to want him. Yeah, let me take him. I know someone will come trying to get him on a trade shortly after, or like you mentioned, trading during it. But I usually try and get greedy, just snag the guy, and then let the desperation kick in after.
Oh, for sure. It just depends on the situation. It depends on the draft. It depends on who's in your draft, and it depends on how much trading is really going around to make that value worth it.
Exactly. And like you were mentioning as well, with just some of the trades, some of the strategies you go in with. I've experienced way too often. I have a goal or an idea of what I'm going to try and do, who I'm going to try and get, and someone else takes them earlier than I anticipated, and suddenly that plan's out the window. And that's where I usually just do best available. I say, screw it. All right, let's just go in and keep taking who I think is has the highest value at this pick, and then deal with it after that.
Yeah, for sure. So let's get on to the next one. And I am up with, I didn't make one for it. All right. Running back heavy. I don't necessarily mean you have to take your running back top one. I'm not saying you have to take JT at 101 or whatever the case may be in your first round. But say in Superflex, you go quarterback first. I'm talking about those guys that go QB first in Superflex and then hit it running back, running back, running back, or running back, however you want to handle it. The reason I bring this up is this is a dying. To me, this strategy isn't going to be around much longer in startups in the sense of there's not very many workhorse running backs that people will want to nail in that first, that second, that third round over and over and over. Here's an example. I'm in a startup right now. This team is the only team that went running back heavy right off the bat. They got Josh Allen right off the bat at 102, but then they went back to back to back. Christian McCaffrey, Derrick Henry, Nick Chubb. This is dynasty, so that's why those guys fell a little bit because of age or whatever. But to go into your draft and go boom, 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 Nick Chubb, or McCaffrey, then Henry, then Chubb. That is the definition of going running back heavy. Yeah, you're getting lower end receivers. Their top receiver is Hollywood Brown and Mike Williams. And George, they actually ended up with George Kittle, which is a surprising thing in that sense because this is tied in premium. So I'm surprised they were able to pull Kittle out of it. Do I recommend this? There are people that live and die by this, and then there are people that flat out think the people that live and die by this are absolutely crazy because you got people that I know, and I know you know some of them too, that are zero RB truthers, which is
And that
fine. If that's how you play, that's how you play. I personally don't recommend sticking to your guns on zero RB, and I'll get to that a little bit later. But what do you think about going RB heavy at the beginning of a draft?
I've done it as well. I mean, I think that goes back to my previous one with the best available. You know, there's times where I end up with all these top tier running backs. I know Mikey touched on it with the aspect of running backs. You know, there's not a lot of true workhorse guys anymore, but also you look at some of the main workhorse names like that one guy has, Nick Chubb, Derrick Henry, Christian McCaffrey, they're getting a little older. We know the life expectancy of a running back in fantasy production is a lot shorter than every other position, but also those are three names that have had to deal with injuries before. And I think that's where a lot of guys get scared away. But hey, if I can hoard these guys, same thing as what I was mentioning with that tight end scenario in one of my leagues. If I have all the big name running backs, someone is going to have an Eno Benjamin or someone that you're like, why is he their RB2? And it's because all of them were gone and they were too busy taking other positions. And then at some point, they're going to get aggressive and maybe desperate for another running back, a better running back. And that's where If you have three and say you used one of them to fill in on that bye week already for the other guys, awesome. You're good to go. You're in the clear. You can sell high and you can just keep winning.
Yep, for sure. So this next topic, we're just gonna briefly talk about it because we got some good stuff coming. We got really good topics. This is a good topic too, but this can be summed up shortly, and that is devalued veterans. And what I mean by that is taking advantage of the veterans on the board. This happens especially in dynasty, pretty much dynasty, because like we all know, people don't like veterans in dynasty. I even sent you a message this weekend about an either or that I had with a veteran that was still on the board, and that was Adam Thielen. I'll let the audience know that I was deciding between Alan Lazard and Adam Thielen, and I asked Zach, being the Packers fan, his answer was take Adam Thielen. My reasoning I first didn't want to was because of the age of 31, but but what do you think about taking advantage of devalued veterans in the sense that because of the age, people forget about them or don't want them, but they can be cogs on a team that can produce.
I think it's a necessity to a point. As much as I love a young core, I think you need to have balance. Balance the young guys with the old guys. There's always rookies I like, but expecting rookies to be these top tier fantasy producers year one is hard. You want to rely on those vets. And that's where, say, in some leagues, I had a whole bunch of first rounders this year. I got a whole bunch of dudes I like, but I don't know how confident I'm feeling about some of these young guns just producing day one. So I'm going to turn to some of these vets that I can get for relatively cheap and throw them into my roster. I'm all for trying to capitalize on that experience, especially when you see, oh, he was a wide receiver 14, 12, 18, you know. Oh, okay, so he was a wide receiver 20 all these different years, but because he's 30, people don't want them or they're selling them low. Sure, obviously it's a depreciating asset, but if I'm in win now and I'm trying to compete, I want to capitalize on stuff like that. And that's where balance is key. Obviously, you can also be in clear win now where you have no young guys and you're just focused on the right here, right now, but you're asking for a not very fun rebuild after that ends. So I always recommend a little bit of both, but I definitely recommend getting those vets.
And Jamie's right on this one. I 100% agree, Jamie. I know we actually do agree a lot. His comment is Allen Robinson is my favorite late round vet that finally has first ever viable QB. I have seen him sliding because everyone thinks, because he's the number two behind Cooper Kupp, that he's going to be shut out. I don't think that's going to happen. They were able to succeed with Cooper Kupp and Robert Woods before Robert Woods went down. So I agree with Jamie
And
on that.
Odell.
And Odell. So I completely agree on that. Now, for the audience who doesn't know, I have been waiting for this one for a while, ever since I saw it on the show sheet, because I think this is the one that Zach is the most excited about since I sent the show sheet. This might be the most excited he's been about a topic since we started, besides the name Christian Watson.
And
So
nothing will excite me more.
nothing will excite him more. So I am going to put the topic on the board, and I am just going to let him roll with the punches. Zach, take it away.
Zero QB. I was talking best available. Sometimes in Superflex, hey, yeah, I want that big name guy that can carry the load, and obviously I'm going to need two quarterbacks. But say, for example, I have pick seven, and the top six quarterbacks are gone. Do I want to take Dak Prescott there? No, I'm not feeling that. But oh wow, look, JT, the best running back in the league, who's the clear RB1, is sitting right there for me. Sign me up. Round two, do I want to get aggressive on another QB I'm not necessarily in love with, or do I want to take Christian McCaffrey or Tyreek Hill or another big name guy that it's surprising in any format to see them sitting there in round two. Sure, I'll take that as well. At some point, obviously, I have to address it, but this is where, to our previous subject, taking advantage of those veterans that are devalued. Obviously, in a super flex startup, the quarterbacks are going to go earlier, but someone like Kirk Cousins, Derek Carr, like Jamie said, Uh, let's see. I mean, even some of the rookies, Zach Wilson, that's one I'm trying to buy for relatively cheap. Or I know they aren't fun names. Daniel Jones, Jameis Winston as my QB2. And obviously, that's not a name that's going to excite you in your super flex spot, but there are going to be productive weeks. The quarterback floor is typically higher. And if I'm stacked at all these other positions, yeah, I'll pass on the QBs off the bat. If I'm set up everywhere else, I'm content. What are your thoughts on it, Mike?
Before I give you my thoughts, putting you to the stove. Justin Jefferson or Lamar Jackson in the first round. If you got to the clock at
JJ.
108, JJ,
Yeah,
okay. This draft had Lamar go before him. Kyler Murray or JJ.
JJ. I'm not a Kyler guy. I
No,
know
that's
people
fine.
love
No,
him. I know
that's
people love
fine.
him. I mean, I took JT at 6 because I think it was Burrow. Hey Kyle, no, I think Burrow went 5 in that yearly that I was telling you about, where that redraft with Jeff and a whole bunch of them,
Okay, yeah.
and it went in some order: Allen, Mahomes, Herbert, uh, Burrow, and who's the other top one? I'm forgetting, but all 5 of them were gone. It might have been Lamar, but essentially it was either take Kyler or take JT, and I went with JT. But
Yeah,
yeah,
Kyle. You and your Packers, Kyle. I know.
but
Dumpster
no,
fire, Kyle.
I'm one take Justin Jefferson. I mean, usually I'm trying to go for that early running back because I've noticed that was JT already gone in that
Yeah,
8. Okay.
JT. Yeah, JT.
Yeah, I think with the wide receiver it's a little harder to avoid it, and if
Yeah,
I'm getting someone like Kyler, I still might, even though I don't love him, I might
you
go
might.
there
Yeah,
because I I'm totally down to go with the zero QB strategy, but I'm not married to it. I'm not going to go out of my way and get someone that I don't necessarily think should go 108 in a super flex draft just to avoid a QB right there. But I
yeah,
also don't want to take Dak Prescott 108.
yeah,
Say if
yeah.
he's the best available quarterback, I'm just going to opt for something else.
Jamie, you were in that. Jamie, the draft Zach is talking about is the draft that you were in. Um,
Yeah, yeah. Jamie got to see my Christian or my JT and Christian McCaffrey stack early on. I mean, I ended up with Kirk Cousins, Zach Wilson, and Jameis Winston. I
yeah,
was happy with it. I mean, it's a best ball, and yeah, I didn't get the biggest name QBs, but it was stacked at a whole bunch of other positions. So hey, I'll take it.
so I'm not completely against this strategy. I'll just be 100% real with everyone on here. In Superflex, I don't have the balls because I'm just afraid. It's just that being afraid of having to go that low down, to have, say a Winston as your number two. And the startup that I'm in right now, we're still in it. I had the 104. I had the 103. I ended up with Mahomes. JT went 102. Josh Allen 101, like expected. JT went 102. Being at 103 and being a Chiefs fan, I had to take Mahomes. And what's shocking, Zach, and I know you and Jamie and Kyle won't believe this, it's my first ever share in Dynasty of that Patrick Mahomes. So that was one of the reasons I just had to. But my quarterbacks, I wasn't able to grab another one early because, like you said in our previous strategies, it was either BPA, value wasn't falling. So I ended up with him, Mahomes, Brady as my two, and I got Winston as my three. And I am perfectly fine with Winston as my three right now. We'll see what happens, because I know Brady's not going to be around forever. But at the same time, for right now, I will deal with it.
No, and I mean, obviously, yeah, if you can get Patrick, awesome. But for example, my 3 tight end one, I have Daniel Jones, Mitch Trubisky, Drew Lock, Jordan Love, Carson Strong, Sam Howell. It's not pretty, but
Hmm.
I'm stacked at every other position. I have three or four running backs that would be clear number ones on, and this is a 14 team league where, yeah, I would say four of the top 20 running backs. I have three of the top five tight ends, and I have three top 20 wide receivers. So I'm stacked everywhere else, and I'm just a little weak at QB where I'm still going to be in the race in a lot of these matchups just based off the strength of where I'm at in every other position. And with the veteran stuff, like we mentioned, I'm in another one too. I have Tom Brady and Matt Ryan, or I have Justin Fields as well, but I took him earlier on, and I got Brady, Matt Ryan for cheap, and I'm ready to win right now. I'm ready to go. Obviously, I need to address that at some point. They're getting old, but hey, the veterans are cheap. They're falling, and I have a few QB options depending on the week, depending on the matchup. So why be aggressive on some of the young guys? I mean, some of the second year guys, it's hard to evaluate. Usually, it's year three for QBs.
Yep.
So until you really know, there is some risk with it because he could be a backup by year five. You don't
For,
know.
yep, for
But
sure. So I'm
yeah,
going to get into my next topic, and I like this one just because I just did this in a draft, and that is just go get your guy. I mean, yes, you want to go BPA. Yes, you might want to go running back heavy. Yes, you might want to, go win for all and take all, not just vets, but take, not take a rookie, not take a second year guy, whatever your strategy might be. But if your guy's there, go get him because there's gonna be certain guys that you're just not gonna get. And when you wanted to take him, say, one round and just hoping that he was gonna come around that turn and come back or whatever, vice versa, especially if it's a short turn, like say you're at 3 and you only have to wait that 5 picks, and you're like, oh, I know he's coming back. You know how much that hurts when he gets taken at the turn or at the 2? It hurts. Last in this startup, I said, screw it. I traded up just a couple picks because I did not want that to happen. I went and got my guy T. Higgins. I know he's the second wide receiver in Cincinnati, but at that point, I didn't care. I went and got the guy that I wanted. Could I have gotten a quarterback at that position? Yes. But to me, the value of the guy that I wanted to get, and I wanted my guy, I I mean, ending up with Higgins. I didn't mind it at all. My three wide receivers, I went and got my guy twice. I got AJ Brown, T. Higgins, and Mike Evans as my three wide receivers. I know Mike Evans is getting a little bit older, but he's another guy that I think is perfectly fine. He's still got 2 or 3 years left. He's got Tom Brady back. He proved that he could do it before Tom Brady. In general, just go get your guy because if it's a running back, tight end, whatever, especially in leagues like, say, tight end premium, and you think you need to go up a little bit higher because you don't want to be worrying about tight end later and having to just stream tight ends. Go get the guy now, and we'll deal with it. Like I saw in one draft I'm in, I'm going to bring it up because Gerson is here. What's up, Gerson? There was a guy that went up and reached a little bit to go get Darren Waller. It was tight end premium. He even said he's a diehard Raider fan. He went up and got him. I know Gerson would have reached to go get Waller, but in a tight end premium, he didn't reach too far, and he went out and got his guy, and he staked his claim. What do you think about that? Is
that's a strategy I live by. I mean, on top of best available, I set it
Christian
on the two.
Watson? Christian Watson.
Oh, I'm getting there. Don't you worry. I mean, I set it on 2 point conversion with Gladys and Jay. I set it today with Kyle on the full press Packers. I am a big believer of going and getting your guy. If you believe in someone, you're confident that they'll be what you think they will be, just do it. Pull the trigger. If you have to overpay to move up, or if you have to, take a guy earlier than his ADP, just do it. It'll hurt more if you don't and someone else gets him. And then you have to watch, and especially when what you're thinking seems like a high expectation and it comes to fruition, it's going to hurt a lot more when you don't have them. And yeah, the best example of this for me is Christian Watson. I was aggressive in getting him in my rookie drafts. I thought He was going to be this dude. I thought the Packers were going to take him pre-draft. I'm trading up in my rookie drafts, trying to move into a spot way earlier than where I think he's going. But that's because then I can survey everyone behind me. Are you looking at Christian Watson? Oh no, or like not necessarily throwing out his name, but trying to see who they're eyeing there, because I'm ahead of them, so they're more willing to share with me. Moment I find out they want Traylon Burks, they want Drake London, Wilson, whoever. Oh, do you want this? Because I'm actually considering that guy. They pay to move up, and then I still manage to get my guy. But I'm all about, yeah, being aggressive. And you have to be aggressive from time to time if there's someone you really want, and especially whether it's rookie drafts, whether it's startup, if you see something available and someone that you want to just capitalize on, you just got to do it. You got to say, screw this, I'm diving in.
All right, Zach, we got a question for you. Off the cuff
Okay.
here. Off the cuff. Answer it.
Yeah,
Drake London for Sky Moore and Christian Watson. What side do you like? 12-team Superflex tight end premium.
I'll do Christian Watson for Drake London straight up.
I knew it. I knew that's what he was going to say. Gerson?
I won't even hesitate. I've taken Christian Watson over Drake London when they're both available. I'll do it.
All
Yeah,
right.
if I can get Sky Moore too, awesome.
So speaking of hoarding your Packers, let's talk about one of your topics, positional hoarding. Go for it.
Yeah, I referenced it with my tight ends earlier. If there's a position, especially one that it is very limited in regards to top tier production, specifically, QBs or specifically more tight ends and running backs, because wide receiver is so deep and it can change so much year to year. But if running backs, tight ends are falling, I'm just going to keep taking them. Like I said, best available. I'm oh yeah, like I said, I didn't need Kittle, Waller, and Andrews, but guess what? I've got them, and now a whole bunch of teams have a really bunch of shitty tight ends, and I love it because hey, have fun with Austin Hooper as your starting tight end. Oh, you want to compete? Okay, well you better pay up then because I know you're desperate for one. I It's a kind of a dick move, or not even kind of. It's a dick move. I understand that, but if you're going to let him fall, I'll gladly take it and just hold everyone else by the balls. And then you have to come my way trying to make a trade and understanding that I've identified that you're desperate for this position, and I'm not going to sell him for anything close to below market, and you're probably going to have to pay a little bit over market price for them.
Hey, I mean, I get it. I mean, I kind of wanted to do that at wide receiver. I wanted to the startup that I'm in now with a completely mindset that I don't normally do. I wanted to try something different. It didn't fully work, but when you try to get a couple of guys up high, I ended up getting Mark Andrews, and then I decided I wasn't going to go for another top end tight end and do the same thing and get two because it's tight end premium. Didn't work out that way, but it is a good strategy, and depending on the league, like you said, and you just have. I mean, with this, you just have to know what your know your league mates. And that actually flows right into my next topic about knowing league mates and stuff, because no matter what your strategy is, you got to be fluid. You could go in thinking you're going to do the two quarterback thing. You can think you're going to take a quarterback at 103 and 208 or whatever whatever 209. You can also think you're going to go back to back at the 112 201 turn and grab a certain position. You would think you might want to go wide out, and then somebody happens to fall, and if you go wide out and someone is there that fell, you got to take the value where the value is. It's just you have to be fluid, partly because especially in startups, you don't know what other players are going to do. Guys are going to go get their guys are going to reach, and the value is going to fall to you. So if you got value and there's value there compared to sticking with your strategy, if you are so rigid that you can't move your strategy a little bit in and out during drafts, I'm sorry, and I think you'll agree with me, Zach. You're not gonna win in fantasy football because you have to be able to maneuver. You have to be able to zig when other people are zagging, and if you don't, adios.
It's going to bite you in the ass if you can't be flexible. I mean, I think that goes for most things, but you have to be willing to adapt to the circumstances. And if you're stubborn and stuck in your prideful ways of, hey, this is my strategy I came in with, I'm locked in on this, like that classic South Park, uh, you gotta if you French fries when you need a pizza, you're gonna have a bad time. It's like that. You're gonna have a bad time if you're not adapting. Good luck, because like all of these other strategies we've discussed, if you're not adapting, you're going to miss out on stuff. You're going to set yourself behind, and you can't. Yeah, it's nice to have an idea of what you're aiming for, but there's so many times, a few of these rosters I've mentioned, I didn't go into the draft planning to have X, Y, or Z, but I do. And that's only because when I'm watching the draft take place and pick by pick, it's going different than I initially expected, or guys that I thought would be there at my slot weren't. I've got to adjust. I'm not just going to be stuck with, okay, well, I'll just take the next quarterback, even though it's the ninth quarterback available and I'm pick nine. Okay, I just got to move on to something else. I highly suggest for anyone, be adaptable, be willing to change what your game plan is, and that'll help you the best.
Yeah, like Jamie even says right here, he said, I love starting positional runs. I took Andrews and Hawkinson in a draft, so guys started panicking, and wide receivers fell to me while guys were taking Schultz and Freiermuth too early.
Yeah,
Perfection, Jamie. Like that's like
and
right there is
that's
exactly what we're talking
And
about.
that's the position hoarding feeds right into that too. You take a couple of guys when they're like, oh, the only guy with tight ends has him and him already. He won't take another. And I'm over here like, I won't take another. Like, oh, watch me. And
Yep.
then suddenly, yeah, they're drafting
Especially
Freiermuth or other guys that the ADP, the slot value there, it shouldn't be this high, but they're like, oh shit, I don't want to have Mercedes Lewis as my starting tight end. The desperation kicks in fast once, a couple of the big names and at a limited position like tight end, the desperation will kick in fast. But that's also people trying to be adaptable, like our current subject. They're
yep.
trying to change on the fly, they're panicking, and that's where going back to getting your guy best available, all of the things we've discussed, it all feeds in together where they're being adaptable, but you also want to be the aggressor where if you can set it where you're being adaptable, but you're the one kind of creating the chaos behind you, even better for you to get the lineup you want or the best available rather than fulfilling a need.
I mean, I couldn't agree with you more. I can agree with Jamie more. So, bonus topic got for you. I'll let you all, and I'll give you the question. You just give me the answer, what you think. Short form, long form. I know you have insight. Since we're talking draft strategies, and I know we said that a lot of people are having their rookie drafts already over or already done or whatever. Just in case there are people that are doing rookie drafts late, because I know a few people are different from just regular startup draft strategy. What is one or two things in rookie draft strategies that differ for you and that you could suggest?
Whatever you think is too high for Christian Watson isn't. No. Or you meant besides that. Oh, okay.
That's one.
No, I think same thing. I wouldn't address need. Obviously, you want if you need a running back, you'd like to get a running back. But if say you have the 12th pick and obviously you're going to have Brees Hall gone, say Kenneth Walker's gone, and Spiller and Cook are gone. You're picking the fifth guy at pick 12. Why? Why get desperate there when that means there's seven, like you would be picking the seventh wide receiver, and it's not usually in that order. Or if it's super flex, there might be some QBs in there too. Hey, Just go get the best available because that guy's going to have the highest price post draft when he's producing at the NFL level. Because say that fifth running back is never more than a backup, the market price isn't going to be that high in future times when you're trying to make a trade. So get that guy who you see the best future for. And yeah, best available again. It comes back to that kind of stuff. But I I just don't see a benefit of going for need in rookie drafts.
I think that is the. I've learned this over the last couple of years. I think that's the biggest mistake people make is going need over talent in rookie drafts. I mean, when you see James Cook going 103, 102,
Painful to hear.
it's I mean, it's painful to hear. I mean, I know I benefited from one of them, but that had in one of the leagues that I saw James Cook go 103. After the draft, I found out that it was because he said he was weak at RB. He didn't even try to trade out. I mean, he easily could have gotten Drake London at 103. I mean, it literally went. I mean, it literally went one QB league, so it went Brees, Walker, Cook.
I've seen that as well. Yeah, I've seen that as well. I I don't see the benefit that in that, and I guess another aspect of the same question is, identify your draft class. This rookie class, what is the strong suit of it? What's the general overview of that entire class? For example, this 22 class. You have one or two fairly big name running backs, obviously Brees Hall, and then essentially everyone else. Kenneth Walker, is the clear two. Trey McBride is the only really exciting tight end, and then there's some solid wide receivers, and then the QBs. It's not a good QB class, but I looked at this class as in a lot of leagues, I'm trying to fill depth. Say I was trying to really maximize my talent at the top via trade, and then okay, I need depth pieces now. Let me get later picks because this draft class has it's not the highest ceiling, but a higher floor for guys deeper into the draft. So let me take guys that could be potential bye week fill ins and could produce in that regard. But yeah, it's important to know what kind of draft class you have. And I am sorry for my cat meowing.
Oh,
She
you're
won't
good.
shut up.
No, you're good. And I mean, you're right on that. You got it. You have to identify it, and you need to identify it before the draft, not during the draft, because if you do it
Yep.
during the draft, it's already too late. I don't. I don't preach. I don't like I told people in my home draft that wanted to trade me early, and I'm all, hey, I'll trade you my pick because I had the 12 hole. I'm like, I'll trade you my pick, but it's gonna be when I'm on the clock. And they're like, well, why don't you just try? I go, because what if someone slides? What if my value, what if the value changes? But in that sense, you also have to do your research because if you don't do your research on that factor, what you're saying about identifying the class isn't going to help you because that's what's going to help you in the long run is identifying the class, knowing your spot in the draft, knowing what might fall to you or what you might have to get or reach if you want your guy, and then be able to pivot from there and make the deal.
And I think it also is important to know for future classes too, to a standpoint. If I need a quarterback right now and I'm in a super flex league and it's the 22 draft, we're about to do it. Oh, if someone else needs a wide receiver and they'll give me a 23 first that could, it's looking like it might be, say, pick six next year. Well, Bajan's going to be a top pick, but there's a few quarterbacks that are going to be, you got CJ Stroud, Bryce Young, Tyler Van Dyke, Anthony Richardson. Uh, what's the,
We can get. You know what? One of
yeah,
these days, we're gonna have to have a little bit of a. Oh yeah,
oh
I
yeah,
can
but
already I can already see it coming.
it's a big QB draft class next year, and that's where,
Will Levis from Kentucky.
yeah, that's the other one I was wanting to say. Thank you. And that's where, okay, obviously I would like to fulfill that need now, but that's when, hey, let me get that future asset. I know there's going to be some really good QB prospects next year, and then I'll trade someone else I don't necessarily need to get a veteran to fill that void.
All right,
But yeah, Devi show live soon.
Jamie, I don't like you right now because if you could get him at the 109. Oh,
109.
I put him
Yep.
in like. I agree with you, Jamie. I might not have him at 5, but tops. I mean, I've seen him going from 4 to 6 to 7. I mean, it's just
No,
yeah.
that's good value at 109 for sure. But yeah, the Devi show, I'm always ready to talk Devi. I
Oh,
mean,
we'll
depends
do
on
an
how many
episode.
years in advance you want to get.
We'll do an episode. What, Nick? Are we going to start talking about Nick Singleton or what?
Oh, don't get me started. Oh, I've already got him taken in a few leagues. I've got Nick and then Emmanuel Henderson for Alabama. You know that 25 RB class? That's mine. And don't forget about that Texas A&M trio either. You know,
Oh
they got the
God.
QB, the two wide receivers. Whew.
So okay. Do we need to go anymore? Or are we good?
I think we covered it all. I mean, I'm always willing to talk more fantasy football, but I think we covered all we were really hoping
We,
to today. And I
we
think
covered.
I just want to say one last thing from all these strategies we discussed. Most of them are interchangeable. You know,
Yep.
they all go, they piece together, you know, best available, the being flexible, position hoarding, veterans being devalued and capitalizing on that, or even the QB early, RB heavy, zero QB. It all can be interchangeable, but that's the key. Interchangeable. Adjust, adapt, survive.
Yep, for sure. I mean, Jamie is okay. Jamie, here we go. Let's go as far as 2026 Arch Manning #1 pick.
Oh,
Well, we want to. Let's not even go there right now.
I'm already tanking in a Devi startup. Don't you worry. I have all the Devi guys, and I'm already
Oh,
planning to get him 101 next year. It's going to be a beautiful
not if he
thing.
goes to Georgia.
He'll fix
I
that
know, I
quarterback.
know. But all right, everyone. I think we had a great show. I hope everyone enjoyed. Jamie, I don't know if he's the best Manning alive, but we'll have to see. Zach, do you have anything you want to plug? Let everyone know where they can find you.
You can find me on Twitter at the Big Pulowski, otherwise going for two. And every other Tuesday, I'm here with Mike. I'm making some guest appearances on some other shows as well. You can check me out earlier talking about Packers with Kyle on the Full Press Packers. But yeah, I'm bouncing around. I'm always ready to talk football. And like I said, we'll be here every other Tuesday.
All right, you can find me at Drop the Mic FF. You can find me with the whole Going for Two live crew. Make sure you go like, click, and subscribe to the Going for Two live channel on YouTube. Go give us a like. We need that. Other than that, you can find me usually on Friday nights over at the Rumboys After Dark show. Other than that, I can't wait to talk football. So if anyone wants to talk football, just let me know. Just hit me up in my DMs. For Zach, I'm Mike. See you guys later.